The Mafia boss could trust thousands of people with his empire, but he could not trust the one woman protecting his son. Adrian Whitmore had built his entire life around one simple belief: everyone wanted something from him. In his world, loyalty was rare, and kindness usually came with a hidden price. As the head of one of New York's most powerful organizations, Adrian had learned to recognize ambition, deception, and opportunity before anyone else could see them. His wealth gave him access to everything most people dreamed of, but it also made him question everyone who came near him. When his young son needed specialized care after a difficult period of illness, Adrian searched for the best medical support available. He expected professionalism, experience, and distance. What he did not expect was Jasmine Carter. Jasmine was a plus-size nurse who had spent years caring for patients with patience and compassion. She was not impressed by expensive cars, private security, or a powerful last name. When she entered Adrian's home for the first time, she focused only on the person who needed her help. That immediately caught Adrian's attention. Most people who entered his world tried to gain his approval. Jasmine did not. She spoke calmly, asked thoughtful questions, and treated his son with genuine care. Adrian watched from a distance, searching for the hidden reason behind her behavior. He wondered when she would ask for something: a favor, a reward, a connection to his wealth. But days passed, and Jasmine never did. She arrived on time, followed every medical instruction carefully, and gave his son the same attention she would have given any other patient. Adrian found that impossible to understand. One evening, he saw Jasmine staying late to comfort his son after a difficult moment. She did not know Adrian was watching. She was not performing for anyone. She was simply doing what she believed was right. That was the first moment Adrian began questioning his own judgment. The woman he assumed wanted his money was acting like someone who wanted nothing from him at all. Still, years of experience had taught Adrian to be careful. He had seen people pretend to care when they had personal motives. So he kept his distance and continued observing. During a quiet conversation, Adrian finally asked the question that had been on his mind: "Why do you care so much when you gain nothing from this?" Jasmine looked at him with calm confidence. Because caring about someone should not always come with a reward. Her answer stayed with him long after she left the room. Adrian had spent his life measuring value through influence, success, and power. Jasmine measured value through something completely different: compassion, responsibility, human connection. For the first time in years, Adrian felt uncertain. Not because he was losing control, but because someone had entered his life who did not seem interested in controlling anything. She was simply helping his son. And that made Adrian wonder if the person he trusted the least might become the person he trusted the most. Adrian Whitmore was used to understanding people quickly. In his world, every conversation had a purpose, every favor had a cost, and every relationship required caution. But Jasmine Carter continued to confuse him. The longer she cared for his son, the less sense his original assumptions made. He had expected her to reveal some hidden intention. He expected her kindness to have a limit. Yet every day, Jasmine proved that she was exactly who she appeared to be. She was a nurse who cared deeply about her patients, and she treated Adrian's son with the same patience and dedication she gave everyone else. Adrian noticed the small things most people overlooked. Jasmine remembered his son's favorite stories. She noticed when he was having a difficult day before anyone else did. She found ways to make him feel comfortable without making him feel like he was different. These actions were simple, but they showed a level of care Adrian rarely witnessed. One afternoon, Adrian watched Jasmine speak with his son after a frustrating moment. She did not make promises she could not keep. She did not pretend everything would always be easy. Instead, she reminded him that difficult days did not define his future. Adrian listened quietly from the doorway. He realized that Jasmine was giving his son something money could never buy: confidence. Over the years, Adrian had provided everything his son needed financially. He had made sure there were the best resources available. But he began wondering if there was something more important he had overlooked. Later that evening, Adrian approached Jasmine. "You seem to understand him better than most people," he said. Jasmine smiled slightly. "Sometimes people do not need someone to solve everything. Sometimes they just need someone who truly listens." Those words stayed with Adrian. He had spent his life solving problems through influence and resources. Listening had never been his strongest skill. As days turned into weeks, Adrian continued observing Jasmine. He noticed she never changed her behavior when he was nearby. She did not become more careful because he was powerful. She did not act differently because she knew his name. That honesty was rare in Adrian's experience. One evening, Adrian saw Jasmine refuse a special offer from one of his assistants. The assistant had suggested making things easier for her because of her work with Adrian's family. Jasmine politely declined. "I appreciate the kindness, but I am doing my job because it matters, not because I expect something in return." Adrian heard every word. For someone who had spent years surrounded by people trying to gain advantages, her response felt unusual. Jasmine was not interested in his money. She was not trying to enter his world. She was simply living according to her own values. That realization challenged Adrian more than he expected. He began questioning how often he had judged people before truly knowing them. He had looked at Jasmine and seen someone who might want something from him. But he was slowly discovering a different truth. She was someone who had already given him something valuable without asking for anything at all. And the more Adrian learned about Jasmine Carter, the more he realized that his first impression had been the one thing he got completely wrong. Adrian Whitmore had spent years believing that trust was something people earned through loyalty and usefulness. He never imagined that someone could earn his respect simply by doing the right thing when nobody was watching. Yet Jasmine Carter continued to challenge everything he thought he knew about people. She never asked about his wealth. She never tried to gain influence through his family. She never treated his son differently because of his last name. She simply cared. That was what made Adrian uncomfortable. He understood people who wanted something from him. He understood negotiations, deals, and calculated decisions. But genuine kindness was something he could not measure. One morning, Adrian arrived home earlier than expected and found Jasmine sitting with his son, helping him complete a small project he had been working on. She was not giving medical advice or following a formal routine. She was simply spending time with him, encouraging him to believe in himself. Adrian watched from a distance and noticed the happiness on his son's face. It was a moment he had not seen in a long time. After Jasmine left, Adrian asked his son about her. "Why do you like having her around so much?" His son answered without hesitation, "Because she listens to me." The simple response stayed with Adrian. He realized that while he had always provided protection and opportunities, Jasmine had provided something equally important. She made his son feel understood. Later that day, Adrian searched for more information about Jasmine. He expected to find something that confirmed his original suspicion. Instead, he discovered a completely different story. Jasmine had spent years helping others. She had volunteered at community health programs and continued learning new skills to become a better nurse. She never mentioned these achievements because she did not want attention. Adrian was surprised. In his world, people often shared their accomplishments because they wanted recognition. Jasmine carried hers quietly because helping others was enough. That evening, Adrian asked her about her past. "Why do you never tell people about everything you have done?" Jasmine smiled. "Because the reason I do those things is not to be praised. It is because they matter." Adrian looked at her differently. For the first time, he understood that Jasmine was not trying to prove her value. She already knew it. Her confidence did not come from other people's approval. It came from knowing who she was. Adrian began reflecting on his own life. He had spent years surrounded by people who measured success through money, reputation, and power. He had become so focused on protecting himself that he stopped recognizing sincerity when he saw it. Jasmine reminded him that not everyone approached him with a hidden plan. Some people simply wanted to do what was right. However, Adrian still struggled with one question. If Jasmine truly wanted nothing from him, why did her presence affect him so much? The answer was becoming clearer with every passing day. She represented everything his world lacked: patience, honesty, compassion, and those qualities were impossible to buy. For the first time, Adrian Whitmore wondered if the person he had been watching so carefully was not the one who needed to be understood. Maybe he was the one who needed to learn how to see people differently. Adrian Whitmore had always believed that knowing the truth about someone required watching their actions, not listening to their words. That belief was one of the reasons he became successful. He trusted patterns, details, and evidence. But Jasmine Carter was slowly showing him something he had forgotten. Sometimes the truth was not hidden behind complicated plans. Sometimes it was simply found in the kindness someone showed when there was nothing to gain. As the weeks passed, Adrian continued observing Jasmine. He noticed that she treated everyone with the same patience she gave his son. She spoke respectfully to employees, listened carefully to doctors, and remained calm even during stressful moments. Her behavior never changed depending on who was watching. That was what made her different. Adrian had spent years around people who changed their personalities depending on who had more power. Jasmine did the opposite. She remained exactly the same. One afternoon, Adrian attended a meeting at the hospital where Jasmine worked. He wanted to better understand the care his son was receiving, but he also wanted to understand the woman who had challenged his assumptions. As he walked through the hospital halls, he saw Jasmine helping another patient who was nervous about a procedure. She spoke with patience and reassurance, giving the person confidence without making them feel weak. Adrian stood quietly and watched. He realized that Jasmine was not kind because she wanted recognition. She was kind because compassion was part of who she was. Later, Adrian asked one of the hospital staff members about Jasmine. He expected to hear something that confirmed his original doubts. Instead, he heard stories about her dedication and commitment. People described her as someone who always stayed late when someone needed extra support. Someone who helped new nurses feel confident. Someone who treated every patient like they mattered. Adrian was surprised by how much respect she had earned without ever trying to impress anyone. That evening, he spoke with Jasmine outside the hospital. "You know people notice what you do," Adrian said. Jasmine smiled. "That is not why I do it." Adrian looked at her thoughtfully. "Then why?" She answered simply, "Because every person deserves to feel valued." Those words affected Adrian more than he expected. He thought about his own life and the people around him. He realized that many relationships he had built were based on what others could offer him. Jasmine was different because she reminded him that some connections were valuable precisely because they were genuine. For the first time, Adrian began questioning whether his suspicion had protected him or isolated him. He had spent years believing that trusting people made him vulnerable. But Jasmine was showing him another possibility. Maybe trust was not a weakness. Maybe it was something that allowed people to build stronger relationships. Still, Adrian knew one thing. His feelings about Jasmine were changing, but he needed to be certain. He needed to know that his judgment was not being influenced by gratitude alone. He needed to see her true character in a moment where no one expected anything from her. And soon, he would discover the answer in a way he never imagined. Adrian Whitmore had spent weeks trying to understand Jasmine Carter, but the more he learned about her, the more he realized that his first impression had been completely wrong. He had expected hidden motives, careful strategies, and a reason behind every kind action. Instead, he found someone who continued doing the right thing even when nobody was paying attention. That discovery changed the way Adrian looked at her, but he still struggled with one important question. Could he truly trust someone after spending so many years believing trust was dangerous? The answer came during a difficult evening at home. Adrian's son was having a challenging day, and the entire atmosphere felt different from usual. Everyone around him focused on finding quick solutions, but Jasmine noticed something others missed. She recognized that Adrian's son was not only dealing with a physical challenge, but also with frustration and uncertainty. She sat with him, listened carefully, and reminded him that needing support did not make someone weak. Adrian watched quietly from nearby. He saw the comfort Jasmine provided without expecting anything in return. She did not know he was observing. She was not trying to create a good impression. She was simply being herself. Later that night, Adrian found Jasmine preparing to leave. For a moment, he hesitated before speaking. "You could have asked for anything," Adrian said. Jasmine looked confused. "What do you mean?" Adrian continued. "With everything you have done for my family, most people would expect something in return." Jasmine looked at him calmly. "I did not help because I wanted something from you." Her answer was simple, but it carried more meaning than Adrian expected. He had spent years believing everyone had a price. Jasmine was proving that some people were guided by principles instead. Adrian looked at her differently. He was no longer seeing a nurse who entered his home because of a job. He was seeing a person with a strong sense of responsibility and compassion. Someone who had earned his respect without ever asking for it. Over the next few days, Adrian started making small changes. He became more present when spending time with his son. He asked questions instead of assuming. He already knew the answers. He listened more carefully to the people around him. Those changes did not happen because Jasmine demanded them. They happened because she showed him another way to see the world. However, Adrian knew he still had something to prove. An apology would not erase the assumptions he had made about her. Words alone were not enough. Jasmine had taught him that actions revealed the truth. One evening, Adrian finally admitted what had been difficult for him to say. "I judged you before I knew you." Jasmine looked at him quietly. "Yes, you did." Her honesty surprised him, but he respected it. "I was wrong," Adrian said. "And I am trying to understand why I was so quick to believe the worst about someone who never gave me a reason to doubt them." Jasmine smiled slightly. "Sometimes people see what they expect to see." Those words stayed with Adrian. For the first time, he realized the biggest mistake he made was not misunderstanding Jasmine. It was assuming that everyone deserved his suspicion before they deserved his trust. The woman he thought wanted his money had already given him something much more valuable. She had shown him that genuine kindness still existed, even in a world where he had forgotten how to recognize it. Adrian Whitmore had always believed that the most difficult decisions were the ones involving business, reputation, and power. He never expected that the hardest decision would involve changing the way he saw another person. For years, Adrian had protected himself by keeping everyone at a distance. He believed trust created weakness and that emotions made people easier to hurt. But Jasmine Carter was slowly proving that his way of thinking had been built on fear rather than wisdom. After admitting that he had judged her unfairly, Adrian noticed something different between them. There was no sudden change in Jasmine's attitude. She did not become closer to him because he apologized. She did not expect special treatment because she had earned his respect. She simply continued being the same person she had always been. That consistency affected Adrian more than anything else. One afternoon, Adrian visited the hospital, where Jasmine worked. He wanted to understand more about her daily life and the environment that had shaped her character. As he walked through the halls, he saw her helping a family who was worried about their loved one. Jasmine spoke with patience and explained everything clearly. She made sure they felt heard instead of overwhelmed. Adrian watched quietly and realized that this was not something she did only for his family. This was who she was with everyone. Later, he asked one of the hospital staff members about Jasmine. The answer surprised him. They described her as someone who always put people first, someone who stayed positive during difficult situations, someone who never looked for recognition. Adrian realized that Jasmine had been showing him her true character from the beginning. He was the one who refused to see it. That evening, Adrian and Jasmine spoke outside the hospital. "I think I understand something now," Adrian said. Jasmine looked at him with curiosity. "What is that?" He paused before answering. "I spent years believing people only cared about what they could gain from me. I never considered that someone could care simply because it was the right thing to do." Jasmine smiled gently. "Sometimes the way we see the world comes from the experiences that hurt us. But those experiences do not always tell the whole truth." Adrian thought about her words. He knew she was right. His past had taught him to be cautious, but it had also prevented him from recognizing genuine kindness. Meanwhile, Jasmine continued caring for his son. She encouraged him during difficult moments and reminded him that his future was not limited by temporary challenges. Adrian saw the connection between them grow stronger, and it meant more to him than he expected. He had always believed providing resources was the best way to protect his child. Now he understood that emotional support was just as important. For the first time, Adrian questioned whether he had spent too much time building walls around himself. Jasmine had never tried to break those walls. She had simply shown him that he did not need them with everyone. However, Adrian knew his transformation was not complete. Respect was only the beginning. Trust required consistency, and he wanted Jasmine to know that his change was real. The man who once believed everyone had a hidden motive was learning that some people offered kindness without expecting anything in return. And the woman he once suspected was becoming the person who reminded him what genuine connection truly meant. Adrian Whitmore had spent years building an image that made people believe he was impossible to influence. In business, that reputation helped him succeed. People respected his decisions, followed his instructions, and carefully considered every word before speaking to him. But recently, Adrian began realizing that being untouchable was not the same as being understood. Jasmine Carter had shown him a different kind of strength, and that lesson became even clearer when the people around him started questioning his choices. Some of Adrian's closest associates noticed that he was changing. They noticed he spent more time with his son, listened more carefully during meetings, and no longer judged people based only on their position. To them, this was unexpected. They believed a man like Adrian should always remain distant, and focused only on maintaining control. One evening, Adrian attended a private company gathering where several important people were present. Jasmine was there as well, because she had been invited to discuss a healthcare project connected to the community. She stood among executives and professionals who had spent years building their careers, but she remained completely comfortable. She did not try to impress anyone. She simply shared her knowledge and explained how better support systems could help families during difficult times. Adrian watched her and felt proud. He remembered the first time he saw her and how quickly he had made assumptions. Now he saw someone who had earned respect without demanding it. During the event, one guest made a dismissive comment about Jasmine's background and questioned why someone like her should have such an important role. Adrian noticed the reaction around the room. Years ago, he might have ignored the comment. He might have believed it was simply part of how powerful circles worked. But this time he responded. A person's value is not determined by their position or where they started, Adrian said calmly. It is determined by their character and what they contribute. The room became quiet. Many people were surprised because they remembered the old Adrian. The man who once cared only about reputation was now defending someone because it was the right thing to do. After the event, Jasmine and Adrian spoke privately. You did not have to say anything, Jasmine said. Adrian looked thoughtful. Maybe not, but I wanted to. She studied his expression. That is different from the person I first met. Adrian smiled slightly. I know. He understood that changing his behavior in public was easy compared to changing his beliefs internally. But he also knew that Jasmine had never asked him to become someone else. She only showed him that he could become better. Later that night, Adrian thought about everything that had changed. He realized he had spent years protecting his reputation while forgetting the importance of his relationships. He had believed people wanted his money, his influence, or his name. Jasmine was the first person in a long time who wanted nothing from him except honesty. That realization mattered more than he expected. However, Adrian knew there was still one thing he needed to do. He needed to show Jasmine that his respect was not temporary. He needed to prove that the man she was beginning to trust was not simply someone trying to make up for the past. He was someone who had truly learned from it. Adrian Whitmore had spent his entire life believing that trust was something people had to earn through years of proving themselves. He never imagined that one person could change his perspective simply by showing kindness without expecting anything in return. But Jasmine Carter had done exactly that. She had entered his life as someone he immediately doubted, someone he believed might have personal motives. Yet every action she took proved the opposite. As time passed, Adrian no longer looked at Jasmine as someone connected to his family because of a job. He saw her as someone who had become an important part of their lives. Most importantly, he saw the positive effect she had on his son. One afternoon, Adrian watched his son laugh while telling Jasmine about a small achievement from school. It was a simple moment, but it meant more to Adrian than he expected. He realized that Jasmine had helped his son regain confidence during a period when uncertainty had affected him. She had never tried to replace anyone. She had simply offered support when it was needed most. That was something Adrian deeply respected. However, not everyone around him understood the changes happening in his life. Some people questioned why he trusted Jasmine so much. They believed someone from outside his world could never truly understand his responsibilities. They saw her as different, but Adrian now saw those differences as one of the reasons he valued her. During a conversation with one of his longtime associates, Adrian heard the same doubts he had once carried himself. The associate suggested that Jasmine might eventually want something from him. In the past, those words would have confirmed Adrian's own suspicions. Instead, he calmly responded, "Not everyone approaches people with an intention to gain something." The statement surprised even Adrian. He realized how much he had changed. Later, Adrian spoke with Jasmine about what had happened. "People do not always understand what they cannot relate to," he said. Jasmine smiled. "Sometimes people judge what they have never taken the time to know." Her words reminded Adrian of the person he used to be. He had judged Jasmine before learning her story. He had seen her position before seeing her character. But now he understood that first impressions were often shaped by assumptions rather than truth. That evening, Adrian made an important decision. He wanted Jasmine to know that his respect for her was not based only on what she had done for his son. It was based on who she was. "I need you to know something," Adrian said. "You never had to prove your value to me. I was the one who failed to see it." Jasmine looked at him quietly. She appreciated his honesty, but she also knew that real change was measured over time. Adrian understood that. He did not expect instant forgiveness or complete trust. He knew he had to continue showing through his actions that he was different. For a man who once believed everything could be controlled, this was a new lesson. Some things could not be demanded. They had to be earned. And as Adrian looked at Jasmine, he finally understood the truth he had ignored for so long. The person he thought wanted something from him had actually given him something priceless. She had reminded him that trust, compassion, and genuine connection were worth more than anything money could provide. Adrian Whitmore often thought about the moment his opinion of Jasmine Carter began to change. It was not one single conversation or one dramatic event. It was a collection of small moments that slowly revealed the truth. The woman he once believed wanted his money had never been interested in his wealth, his reputation, or the influence that came with his name. She had cared about his son, her patience, and doing what she believed was right. Years ago, Adrian would have considered that kind of kindness unrealistic. Now, he understood it was one of the rarest qualities a person could have. Life around Adrian continued to change. He was still a successful and respected mafia boss, but the way he carried that responsibility was different. He no longer believed that being powerful meant keeping everyone at a distance. He learned that leadership also meant understanding people and recognizing their value. His employees noticed that he listened more. His son noticed that he spent more time being present. The people closest to him noticed that the coldness he once carried was slowly being replaced by something more genuine. Jasmine never asked Adrian to become someone else. She never wanted him to abandon his responsibilities or forget who he was. She simply showed him that strength and compassion could exist together. That lesson became the foundation of everything that followed. One evening, Adrian and Jasmine returned to the hospital where they first began understanding each other. They walked through the familiar halls and remembered how different things had been. At the beginning, Adrian smiled as he looked back on his first impression of her. "I thought I knew exactly what kind of person you were," he said. Jasmine looked at him with a small smile. "And now?" Adrian paused before answering. "Now I realize I never gave myself the chance to know you." Jasmine appreciated his honesty. She knew the old Adrian had been shaped by years of caution and disappointment. But she also knew the person standing beside her now was someone who had chosen to grow. Adrian looked at her and continued, "You helped my son when he needed someone. You helped me when I did not even realize I needed to change. But the most important thing is that you did it without expecting anything from me." Jasmine smiled. "That is because kindness should not always come with a price." Those words reminded Adrian of the first lesson she had ever taught him. The value of a person could not be measured by money, status, or appearance. It was measured by character. Looking back, Adrian realized the biggest mistake he made was not trusting Jasmine. It was assuming that everyone saw the world the way he did. He had allowed his past experiences to decide how he viewed people. Jasmine showed him that the future did not have to be controlled by the past. The woman he once doubted became the person he trusted most. The nurse he thought wanted his fortune became the person who gave his family something far more valuable than money. She gave them hope, patience, and a reminder that genuine people still existed. Adrian Whitmore would always be known as a powerful man, but the greatest change in his life was not the empire he built. It was the person he became when he finally learned to see the heart behind the person standing in front of him.